Before you judge someone's success, hear this story of a boy everyone hated until the truth changed an entire kingdom. A long time ago, in a quiet village surrounded by golden fields and endless horizons, a poor farmer and his wife lived a life built on struggle, sweat, and silent prayers. Every morning before the sun even thought of rising, they were already working, their hands rough from years of plowing hard soil and carrying water across uneven ground. They lived simply, with little to call their own, except their honesty and the hope that tomorrow might treat them a little kinder. But the one desire that lived in their hearts more strongly than food, wealth, or rest was the dream of having a child. A child to love, to care for, to raise into someone better than themselves. Yet fate had denied them this one dream, and every year the ache only grew deeper. One stormy night, as thunder rolled like drums across the sky, and the wind howled as if it carried the cries of spirits, the farmer walked toward his land to make sure the storm wouldn't destroy what little crops he had. As he stepped carefully through the muddy ground, he suddenly froze. A sound cut through the storm, soft, weak, but unmistakably the cry of a baby. Confused, he followed the sound until he found a small bundle lying near the edge of the field, wrapped in a damp cloth. Inside it was a baby boy, shivering but alive. The farmer lifted the child gently, instinctively shielding him from the rain, and rushed home with trembling hands. When his wife opened the door, shocked by the sight of her husband soaked and breathless, her eyes widened even more when she saw the baby. She covered her mouth, tears instantly filling her eyes. She held the child close and whispered, "Maybe God sent him to us. Maybe this is the child we were meant to have." From that night forward, the boy became their son. They named him with love, raised him with care, and taught him every lesson they knew. Lessons shaped from hardship, humility, and honest living. He grew into a strong, patient, and kind-hearted young man. Unlike those who complained about long days, he embraced work as a blessing. He helped his parents without hesitation, plowing fields under the sun, sowing seeds with determination, and carrying water even when exhaustion sat heavy on his shoulders. Slowly, something remarkable happened. His crops grew taller, greener, and healthier than anyone else's. The grain seemed fuller, the soil richer, and the harvest more abundant every season. People couldn't understand it. Instead of being inspired, jealousy grew like weeds in the hearts of the villagers. Some whispered that he used tricks. Others mocked him, calling him too quiet, too perfect, or too lucky. A few even broke his tools or secretly stomped through his fields when he wasn't looking. But the young man never raised his voice, never complained, never fought back. He simply fixed what was broken, replanted what was destroyed, and gave respect even to those who offered him none. Years passed, and then one season, the sky turned dark in ways no one in the village had ever seen. Heavy rains poured for days, drowning the fields, flooding the land, and leaving every home soaked in despair. When the storm finally passed, the damage was severe. The river had overflowed and destroyed all crops. Families cried because there was nothing left to eat. Children went to sleep hungry. Fear spread faster than the water ever did. But there was one person who still had grain. The young farmer had always worked with discipline, and because of that, he had stored his grains carefully in case of bad times. He could have kept everything for himself and his parents. He could have survived comfortably while everyone else struggled. But his heart didn't allow it. He remembered the hunger he grew up with, the nights his parents ate less so he could eat more, the moments when kindness had saved him more than food ever had. So he made a decision. Late at night, when the village was silent and everyone was asleep,
He carried cooked food from house to house, leaving it quietly at every doorstep. He didn't leave notes. He didn't wait for praise. He didn't want anyone to know. He just wanted them to live. In the morning, the villagers woke to the smell of warm food waiting outside their doors. Some cried with relief. Some believed it was a miracle. But none of them imagined that the same young man they mocked, the same man they hurt, was the one feeding them. And even during the day, even while his quiet kindness was keeping them alive, some people still insulted him. But he stayed silent. He stayed kind. And he stayed true to who he was. One evening, exhausted not from work but from emotional pain, the young man sat outside his small home and looked at the sky. Why does the world return hate for love, he wondered. Why do people hurt the ones who help them? For the first time in years, sadness weighed heavy on his heart. But someone had seen everything, the truth, the kindness, the sacrifices. An old villager, too weak to work but sharp in his mind, had watched the young man every night, sneaking from house to house with food. The next morning, when everyone gathered in the village square to complain about their struggles, the old man slowly stood up. With a voice that was weak yet powerful, he shouted, "You fools! You accuse this young man of cheating, lying, using tricks. But do you know who saved your lives? Do you know who fed you when you had nothing? It was him. Every night. While you slept, he carried food to your doors." The villagers froze. Shame hit them harder than the storm ever did. They looked at the young farmer with guilt, fear, and regret. And just when the weight of their actions began to settle, a group of royal soldiers arrived carrying the king's seal on their armor. Their presence brought silence. The leader stepped forward and announced that years ago, the king and queen had lost their baby boy during a violent storm. They had searched everywhere but never found him. Recently, they discovered clues pointing toward this very village. The soldiers moved toward the young man, observing him carefully. Then one of them saw a birthmark on his arm, the exact royal mark described in the king's records. A gasp spread across the villagers. The truth was undeniable. The young man was the lost prince of the kingdom. Shortly after, the king and queen themselves arrived. When they saw him, tears filled their eyes. They rushed toward him, hugging him tightly as if afraid he might vanish again. He stood there stunned, torn between the life he had lived and the truth unfolding before him. But the villagers were terrified. They remembered how they had mocked him, sabotaged his fields, insulted him. The king saw their fear, and his face hardened with anger. He ordered the soldiers to prepare punishment. But before anything could happen, the young prince stepped forward and knelt before his royal parents. "Father, mother," he said softly, "please do not punish them. If I could forgive them when they hurt me, how can I punish them now? Let us choose mercy." The king looked at his son with surprise. The queen wiped her tears. The villagers fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the kindness of the young man they had once treated so terribly. The king finally nodded. "You are not only my son, you are a true prince, a prince not just by blood, but by heart." The villagers wept openly, not out of fear, but out of gratitude. The prince brought his adoptive parents to the palace, honoring them as the mother and father who raised him with love when the world had abandoned him. Their humble life turned into a life of comfort, surrounded by respect and affection. And the prince's story spread far and wide across the kingdom, teaching people that storms may shake your world, jealousy may rise against you, cruelty may try to break you, but what truly remains, what truly defines you, is kindness. Kindness that grows silently, kindness that heals, kindness that forgives, kindness that changes hearts. And in the end, that kindness becomes the light that no storm can ever extinguish.